Welcome to this Synergos webinar hosted by the Global Philanthropist Circle in partnership with our Synergos colleagues from Egypt. The topic for today's discussion is powering social entrepreneurship with a focus on lessons learned from Synergos' 10 years of work with social entrepreneurs in the Arab world. My name is Marika Spence, and I'll be facilitating today's webinar. I work with the Global Philanthropist Circle out of the Synergos New York office. I'm looking forward to yielding the floor shortly to today's presenter and expert, Hisham el-Rouby. But before we transition, I'll give you a brief overview of Synergos and the GPC for anybody who might be unfamiliar. Synergos was founded just over 30 years ago by Peggy Delaney, a daughter of David Rockefeller. The organization brings people together to solve complex problems of poverty and create opportunities for individuals and communities to thrive. We apply a unique approach built on 4 key elements, including collaboration, systems thinking, bridging leadership, and personal reflection. And Synergos is active on an individual, organizational, and multi-sector level. We operate partnership programs around the world, such as the one Hisham will tell you about today. And our consulting services colleagues combine business analytics with experiential learning and advanced approaches to participatory design, supporting clients from strategy formation to field implementation. Services applies methodologies both for enhancing internal alignment and building partnerships. Today's webinar is hosted by the Global Philanthropist Circle. 97 families strong and growing, the GPC is a peer learning community with services ranging from high-quality events, customized relationship management, and more. The GPC is supported by membership contributions, part of which are directed towards Synergos partnership programs around the world. So we are particularly excited to share Hisham's work with many of the members who are participating today on the webinar. This work could not have happened without the Global Philanthropist Circle community, along with the many extraordinary individuals working on our program side and on the ground in the Middle East and Africa. And finally, before we begin, just a couple of housekeeping items. Everyone is muted by default. If you can't hear me right now through a computer speaker or headphone, please dial in via your telephone or mute and then unmute Zoom, and that should do the trick. There's going to be a lot of content today and some text on slides. Don't worry if you don't catch it all. Slides will be emailed to you following the presentation, and this webinar is also being recorded, so you can view it again as many times as you like or forward it to others after we send you that link. To send your questions to us, because you are muted, please use the chat function to submit questions or comments. You'll see it in a bar on the right-hand side of your screen. And actually, if everybody could just take a moment and looking at the white arrow at the bottom of your screen, if you want to send us a message, please toggle and change the to field to say Global Philanthropist Circle. And referencing the green arrow on the bottom of your screen, that's where you can type in any questions or comments you might have. And you can do that through the duration of the webinar. We will collect them and we'll address them at the end. If you have any technical issues or concerns, please just WhatsApp message my colleague Lori Lannon. Her phone number is here, and you can also reference the original email invitation for the webinar. There will be a brief interactive poll in the middle of this webinar. Don't worry, we will have instructions for that when we reach that point. And now it's my pleasure to introduce my colleague Hisham el-Rouby, Regional Director of the Synergos Arab World Program based in Egypt and a Synergos Senior Fellow. Welcome, Hisham. Thanks so much for taking the time to share with us all today.
Thank you, Marika, and thank you all. Actually, it's a great pleasure to be with you today for 2 reasons. The first is we completed 10 years of Synergos work in the Arab world and MENA region. The second reason is I feel like sharing this with other networks inside Synergos will give us more power to continue working and put a lot of another dimension in our work, as I'm sure most of you are interested in this geography, and we're trying to do our best to have a very unique and impactful model. We started since 2008, so now we are completed our 10 years of impact in this region. As you might all know, a region of a great challenges and a great hope. The challenges around political instability and uncertainty almost in everything, and the hope is because of the younger generation. The region is full of young people. Almost 60% of population in this region are young people. Let me start talking about our unique model of social entrepreneurship. When we started in 2008, our intervention was to use social entrepreneurship as a vehicle for development at large and leadership development in specific. So we were looking for people with innovative ideas, established organization, proven success, and we tried to help them to scale. But like halfway in 2011, we introduced our new model of Pioneers model. And why we did this? We did this because of several reasons. Having only invested in established and successful leaders will lead us to a social impact, but not enough for us as Synergos to have a very limited circle of social impact. And the Pioneers model, if you can imagine, we have 3 circles. The inner circle is the pioneers, social entrepreneurs who proven success even in a small geography. The middle circle is startups, teams, mostly young people in their idea stage or in the prototype stage. And the outer circle is young people, where for each class of pioneers and startup we have at least 1,000 volunteers. And our approach of volunteerism, back to my personal experience, as my main concern, like 20 years from now, is to introduce a new logic of volunteerism in the region. I started in Egypt, and because of this new logic of volunteerism, I elected to be the first Ashoka Fellow in the region. And this model is a combination between social entrepreneurship and volunteerism. And the idea is, how can we develop a model, a graduation model, a hope model, where startup can be a pioneer and young people, youth, can be a startup or a pioneer. So this is the model in brief. Our network now, we are the biggest social entrepreneurship network in the region. We have 132 pioneers in our network, 307 startups, and actually we can add 24 startups to this number. Just 2 days before we elect the new class in Palestine, 24 new startups. So this number will be like 330. And we have 2,316 young people in our network. Like a year from now, we ask ourselves as a team, what are we doing connected to the Sustainable Development Goals. And we did this exercise with all the pioneers and startups, and we found out that we are touching every corner of SDGs. And as you can see, in all the 17 goals, we have at least one pioneers working in this. And at some goals, we have very high number of projects, like 79 in quality education, 73 in decent job, and other goals. So it's comprehensive. We tackle every single corner of the development sector, and our network is diverse, and this is the most powerful thing, because people working in different sectors, they can easily work together, they can formulate partnership together, and this is exactly what describes Synergos' approach. In our region, being an entrepreneur is a big challenge. Being a woman is another layer of challenges. So being an entrepreneur, a woman entrepreneur in our region is a very high challenge position for a person. But our program, you cannot imagine how women are successful in our program. Almost half of our participants in the pioneers and startup are women, and more than half of the volunteers are women. As you can see, you will see this is the map where we exist in the region. So we exist in Morocco, Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, Palestine. This is the number of pioneers. You can see the biggest two number is 84 pioneers in Egypt and 29 pioneers in Palestine. Startup, you can see startup only exists in Egypt and Palestine, because when we introduced the pioneers model, we decided to pilot it first in Egypt. So we started in Egypt with a class of 50 pioneers, 200 startups, 1,000 volunteers, and the first class was very successful. So we decided to replicate the model in Palestine, and we had another class in Egypt, and now we have current class in Palestine. And you will see at the end of this presentation, we'll talk about our next step of replicating this model across the Arab countries. And also the volunteers exist only in Egypt and Palestine. Egypt is 2,000 volunteers, and Palestine 200 plus 300 new ones. Those in this current class, so we have like 500 in Palestine. And this is the timeline, and as I told you, the turning point was when we introduced the Pioneers model, 2011, and going forward, this model is a life model. So now we're thinking of, we have the biggest network, we have the biggest alumni group in the region. How can we use them in the mentorship program? And also we're doing some enhancement on the volunteer level, where people, because we found out that not 100% of the volunteers want to be an entrepreneur. Some of them want to enter the labor market. So we're doing some enhancement in the level of alumni and level of new entry. And as you can see, we give like $2.8 million as a financial awards to the pioneers, and 25,000 for selected startups to start their own organization. So the recipient of the financial award is 167 total. We also thought about how can we do more with less. So our design and our calculation said that this program can be implemented under this cost. Pioneer cost us $30,000 US, startup 3,000, and volunteer 250.
Great, thanks Hisham. And now we've reached the point in our webinar where we're going to have a brief interactive poll. And Hisham was able to survey pioneers and startups in the program to ask them what their biggest challenges were, what was holding them back. So now we'd like to ask everyone, before we reveal the results of that survey, from your perspective as a webinar participant, which 3 barriers do you think would pose the greatest challenges to social entrepreneurs operating in this region? What you're going to see popping up on your screen now are several options to pick. Please scroll through them and take the next 30 seconds or so to choose the 3 that you believe might represent the biggest challenges or barriers. We'll give it a few more seconds. Okay, oh, some answers are coming in. Okay, great. So I think we're ready to show everybody what the results were. Interesting, Hisham, look at this. It looks as though most everybody selected political and economic instability as the likeliest, biggest reported challenge for social entrepreneurs.
The second is
infrastructure and low government support. Right. So, and here we see the results. Feel free to close your poll screen if you like to see what really happened here. Hisham, do you want to say something about what the real results indicate?
Yeah, I think your answer is too close. The political economic instability came the second place here, and lack of training is the first. And I'm sure you're wondering why this lack of training being the first challenge. And I will explain this because this is very much related to our education system in the region. The education system is more theoretical, not related to the market needs, and not connected to entrepreneurship or new technologies. So people feel like, yes, we have to go to the university and get the certificate, but by the end of the day, what we learn is nothing to do with the market and nothing to do with life. So the lack of proper training is a big issue. You'll find people like graduated with no training and no proper training opportunity available, especially where people want to start their own startups. This is why when we work with the startup teams in their idea stage or prototype stage, we designed a very comprehensive training program to help them know more about the business plan, idea, and marketing plans, and how to start an organization legally, how to manage people and finance. So, but you were right with this political, economic instability is the second challenge in the real survey, and the first one in your survey. And I also want to comment about the technology access. You can, maybe some of you thought this technology access is not available in our region, but no, the technology access is very accessible, and the infrastructure for technology is very good. And in the Gulf area, in Egypt, and even in North Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, it's very, very good technology access, and people can use technology. And because of the nature of population, majority are young people, so they are very much connected to technology, and they can easily use technology in their startups. So what's our offerings with these different groups? As you can see, we have range of offering: financial, strategic, networking, learning, mentorship. And for each group, we have different offering. But for my own opinion, our biggest offering is helping people see each other, listen to each other, know about their project ideas. And so networking and convening people, helping people to learn from each other is the biggest offering we can offer. And yes, the financial world is very important. The learning, the mentorship is important, but networking and convening people is the most important thing, because this model designed to be a graduation model. So when we convene people together, you'll find volunteer helping the startup teams. You find startup going into partnership with the pioneers and doing work together. So this environment and this culture of working together is, for my opinion, is the best offering we can offer as Synergos. And I'm sure this report will be with you, so you will see the numbers. But our proven result is more than 3 million lives improved because of our network work. Direct 3,000 jobs directly created or enhanced inside the Pioneers organization or startup teams. Thousands of jobs created through the Pioneers initiative. So the difference between those two categories of jobs, so the direct jobs is the Pioneers hire people inside the organization, but the other one, the Pioneers initiatives, create jobs inside the community they are working in. Pioneer program expanded or replicated in more than 30 countries. Here, we're not talking about the Pioneers model, but we talk about the Pioneers program. So the initiative led by Pioneers replicated in this number of countries. And you can see other numbers to prove in our result. And also because of Synergos system thinking and partnership, we encourage pioneers and startups not only to focus on the day-to-day work, the production, or the service they offer throughout their initiative, but also to think globally on the public policies affecting their work. I know there is a lot of writing here, but if we pick like health, Shamsiya is an initiative in Egypt helping people to have a say on the health services, especially the public health services in Egypt, and also trying to introduce a new health insurance solutions for poor people and for specific profession or specific geography. And to do this, they need to work directly with the parliament or with the government to change the law around this health insurance. I think the model and Synergos go together because the model is designed to be a graduation, feeding each other based on personal reflection, personal learning, system thinking, and also Synergos doing the same as the Synergos approach. And here, now why Synergos advantage in this area and this geography. Now we have the largest network in the region. Actually, like 80% of our network elected to be a Ashoka Fellow. So we are like a source of a new Ashoka Fellow in the region. Our network, a lot of them get international recognition. Last month, 2 of our Egyptian pioneers received $100,000 award from Expo Life, part of Expo 2020 from Dubai. So the model is proven success. In the beginning, when we thought about the program, we thought about helping leaders in early stage so they can be able to enter the international community of social entrepreneurship as Ashoka, Skull, and Schwab. The model it can be replicated easily. We tested the model 2 times in Egypt and now 2 times in Palestine. And our presence in the region is very high. And yesterday I was in a dinner, and there is a social entrepreneurship program here in US, and the person leading this program told me that this year they received 3,000 applications only from Egypt, and this is because people, and young people especially, started to know about social entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship at large, and they can be part of this either locally in Egypt, regionally, or internationally. We have some examples of the network is huge. So we have 130 pioneers, but we bring you like 4 examples. The common characteristic of all examples you will see is Synergos start electing them and working with them in their very early stage. So here is Rana Dajani from Jordan. She started some initiative called We Love Readings to help students to read. She started in like small mosque in a small geography in Amman, and now We Love Reading reach 40,000 children, 2,000 other adults helping children to read, and this model replicated in 30 countries. Mustafa started Knockem. Knockem is a platform for poor students to get the curriculum online without paying anything in high quality videos. And when we started with Mustafa was like trying to fix the platform, trying to have some good videos to show. And now Mustafa, Knockem is 60 million views, and active user is 900,000. And actually I met with Mustafa like 2 days before I came here to New York, and he told me they reached 1 million active user. And the curriculum now, it's not only covering Egypt, they cover Egypt, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and Algeria. Kemal from Lebanon, he starts like Souk al-Tayyib once a week. He brings farmers and people living in Beirut, especially West Beirut, the rich part of Beirut, to buy directly from the farmer. And this was the idea when we start with Kemal, and now Kemal, Souk al-Tayyib is a very big known in Lebanon, and they start like a series of restaurants based on raw material coming directly for farmers. Russia, from Egypt, because she studied the situation of women in Egypt, and she found out like millions of Egyptian women received very good education, and some of them received like higher postgraduate from abroad, Europe or US, but they sit in homes without work. So she started the platform where every woman can start her own company in this platform, and this platform like reach a 10 million crowd. So if you start your own online company, you have anything to produce, to sell, you already have the crowd. And now if you want to look at the numbers, 10 million views, and we have 7,000 women started their own online companies, and it's 100% financial sustainable. And here you can find a lot of examples. When we will share this report with you, you can click on, but I want to talk about Tamer. Tamer he started something called Yumkin, and Yumkin was the idea of how can we introduce new solutions for very old classic products. So how can we go for a small workshop, ask the owner of this workshop and ask people about the current product and the new product, and trying to connect. It's a crowd fund and crowd solutions. And Tamer is one of the winners of the 100,000 award from Expo Live. What next is the model now is ready for replication. We are in the process to replicate this model in Tunisia and Lebanon. I am sure some of you are working in some of these countries in the Arab world, and I will be very happy if we can talk more about how can we support each other, how can we work together to expand this model in the Middle East and North Africa.
Thanks so much, Hisham. And we're going to move to questions. Okay, great. So, and please do continue as we move through the Q&A to send us your comments and questions through using the chat function. So we have a question here, Hisham, from a participant wondering how common it is for volunteers to eventually move up into that other circle that you talked about, to become startups and then to pioneers. Are there a lot of examples of this happening?
Yeah, actually we have like, we track this and we have a percentage. We have like 20% of startups become pioneers, and like 5% from the pioneers start their own startups. And we have one example of pioneers become one example of volunteer become directly a pioneer. So it's proven that this model, because if you are a young people, student, and you love something, we place people depend on their motivation. So we place them with one of the pioneers or startups, so they start to know about the ecosystem, about the idea, and to be honest, everyone can be an entrepreneur if you put them in the environment of innovation and working together and thinking.
And Hisham, here's another question from a participant. What do you think is the most valuable thing that participants get out of this program, the Pioneers Program?
I think the network, the in-country network and the regional network, because we have a lot of partnership happens between pioneers in different countries, and this helps them to scale to other countries easily because they have friends. For example, we have a great example in Jordan. Zainab, she worked with women farmers, and now she started a partnership in Egypt and in Morocco with other pioneers.
Thanks so much, Hisham.
Yeah.
Another of our participants is asking how you match youth volunteers with the companies that offer volunteer opportunities.
The volunteer program is designed to start with the volunteer himself or herself to discover their motivation, what their future dreams, and then search for a proper opportunity within the pioneers or startup to place. But before we place the volunteer, we train the pioneers or startup on how to manage volunteers. So it's a volunteer for development approach. We don't send volunteers to help the pioneers only. We send volunteers to learn and to pursue their dreams.
How many pioneers, and I think you referenced this earlier in the presentation, but how many pioneers become Ashoka Fellows? It seems like you've got a good track record there.
Yeah, actually 80% of our pioneers become an Ashoka Fellows.
Wow. It's a real pipeline.
Yeah.
Compared to 10 years ago, how did people view social entrepreneurship in the region? What has changed?
I think this is a very good question, because when we start as like a fellowship, a typical fellowship recognizing the social entrepreneurs. The number was very limited, and the idea was also like an elite idea. So social entrepreneur is something very elite, like it's like very rare to find this. But when we introduced the model where we have pioneers, startups, and thousands of young people in each class, this has opened a lot of doors for people to think about themselves as a future entrepreneurs, or to even talk about the issue of social entrepreneurship. So the culture is changing, and yesterday dinner, it's proven for me that this culture in Egypt is moving.
And how does that relate to your outlook on the economic growth generally in the region? Are you optimistic? Do you see employment improving over the short or long term?
The economic situation at the region is different from country to country. Egypt, as example, is the economic at large is improving, but the microeconomics still have a lot of issues. And I think the biggest shift I saw myself is the mindset. If you visit Egypt like 10 years from now, asking young people about their dreams, they will tell you we want a government job because this is a stable lifetime job. But now if you sit with like 100 young people in Egypt, ask them what you want to do, like more than 60-70% they will tell you we want to start our own business.
Wow. I'm going to give it just one more second here to see if anybody would like to use the chat function to send another question. So we've got a question from someone asking about women pioneers. What kinds of initiatives are they running? We heard about Rana and Ladies Corner.
Yeah. All kinds of initiatives. We have pioneers working in energy, helping poor people to create their own way of generating energy. We have women working in education, like Educate Me in Egypt, in health and farming, everything. So we don't have a specific women initiative. They compete in every field.
Great, thanks, Hisham.
Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm very willing for any other questions by email or any future discussion, especially if anybody wants to do something in this region.
Thank you so much, and thanks to everybody for joining us today for this webinar. As a reminder, we'll be sending you a recording of the webinar for reviewing and also the slide presentation afterward. If you have questions about the Global Philanthropist Circle, please direct them to myself. You can see my email on the screen here, and Hisham's is here as well. There is a link at the bottom of your screen, so if you're a GPC member interested in what's coming up on the event side, please click on that and you'll see what's coming up. Thank you all so very much, and take care. Thank you.